Hi there, I have a First Page Friday video for you. I'd like to introduce you to a Colorado writer who's actually new to me, although she's been writing for quite some time. But I just ran across her fairly recently over the last couple of months, and I have two books to share with you today. So her name is Pam Houston. I've got two books. One is Cowboys Are My Weakness, and the other is Deep Creek. So I met Pam a couple of months ago. She was on a book tour for Deep Creek and she came to a library event. I live in the most amazing town in the world because we've got the best library. And our library is fantastic because one of the things that they do is that, well, they have a ton of different activities and events that they offer. And one of them is called Authors We Love. And they bring authors in from all over the country. Authors come in, do presentations, do workshops, talk about their books, talk about their writing processes, read from their books and so forth, do Q&A sessions. It's really wonderful. So you'll get to meet these people in person, get to ask them questions. You can ask them questions about their writing process, their publishing process, how they met an agent, how they got started, what keeps them motivated, or ask them about their actual books too. Novel idea. And so it's a really, really wonderful program, and I've been able to meet a few different authors this way. So I got to meet Pam at an event that was a few months back, and it was really cool. I belong to a writing group, and there were about 6 or 7 of us from the writing group that came in. So I got to touch base with her just a little bit about her writing experience. The other thing that I really liked about Pam is that she'd moved to Colorado a couple of decades ago, and she has this love of Colorado that I think is pretty typical of Coloradans generally. Really, I've been here most of my life, and it really doesn't matter what part of Colorado that you're from, if you're Eastern Plains farmer, or if you're a mountain skier, or if you live on the Front Range. It doesn't really matter where you're from. People in Colorado are like crazy about our state. We really love it, and for so many different reasons. Some people love the weather and some of the ski opportunities and some the culture. There's such a variety of cultural opportunities here in Colorado. And Pam is one of those people who gets it, and she talks about that in one of her books in Deep Creek here. So what I'd like to do is introduce you to Pam through her writing and read first page of Cowboys Are My Weakness as well as the first page from Deep Creek. And then I have, it was really difficult to whittle it down to one, but I have one passage that I'd like to read out of each of the books for you so that you can get a sense of her writing. I say it was difficult because there was such an extraordinary number of excellent passages in the books. That are worth sharing, but I just chose one so that I could kind of really whittle it down. So the first book I'd like to introduce you to is called Cowboys Are My Weakness. And this is a book that was published in 1992. The topic is not my cup of tea, I'll be honest with you. But I like the writing. I like her writing style. It's poetic, it's very fluid. It has this wonderful flow to it that I really enjoyed. I say the topic is not for me because it's about dysfunctional relationships. That's my definition of it. It's about people men and women who just can't figure it out and don't have goals. They're these kind of wandering characters who don't have a purpose. They're just kind of going from disaster to disaster in some cases, or adventure to adventure in some cases. And those adventures aren't always of the healthy style. So for me, the topic wasn't great, or wasn't as engaging as what I normally go for. But I love the writing. And when I first started asking around about Pam Houston, asking other writers and readers about what they thought of her or if they knew about her, everybody knows this book. So when I brought her up to a couple of buddies, they said, oh yeah, Cowboys Are My Weakness. I love that book. It's fantastic. So this book really, really resonates with writers. And so I thought it was really important to bring this one today. She has a variety of books, but I felt like it was really important to bring this one because it hits so close to home for so many writers. So what I'd like to do here is to read the first page Friday, of Cowboys Are My Weakness for you. And this starts with a story called How to Talk to a Hunter. So all of these are narrative essays. So they're that combination of personal essay and narrative that are put together in a manner that you get that understanding of the story itself. But you also have that essay structure that's underneath of them. Okay. So how to talk to a hunter. When he says skins or blankets, it will take you a moment to realize that he's asking which you want to sleep under. And in your hesitation, he'll decide that he wants to see your skin wrapped in the big black moose hide. He carried it, he'll say, soaking wet and heavier than a dead man, across the tundra for 2, was it hours or days or weeks? But the payoff now will be to see it fall across one of your white breasts. It's December and your skin is never really warm, so you will pull the bulk of it around you and pose for him, pose for his camera, and without having to narrate this moose's death. You will spend every night in this man's bed without asking yourself why he listens to Top 40 country, why he donated money to the Republican Party, why he won't play back his messages while you are in the room. You are there so often the messages pile up. Once you notice the bright green counter reading as high as 15. So here in this beginning page, which is barely a page here, 2 little tiny paragraphs, you get this real sense of character. And that's what I like about her writing style, is that she gives you so much information right up front. I really enjoy that. You get this interplay between the characters because you have, of course, the narrator, the lover of the hunter, and you have to ask a lot of questions about this narrator. Is she a reliable character? Is she a reliable narrator? Why is she with this hunter if she has all these questions about him? What are the true aspects of mystery about the hunter that continue to pull her to him? What about him is so mysterious that he continues to drag her in? What are these other messages that are on his machine? There's so many unknowns, and I love that about her writing because it pulls you in and it allows you to connect with the story as you're reading it, right? So that's the first page of Cowboys Are My Weakness. The next piece that I want to share with you is a piece out of Selway, which is one of the essays. And in Selway, she's talking about the relationship of 2 people who are adventurers in that they are river rafters and they're rafting on this extremely dangerous river. One that has recently killed a person and one that had recently hurt several other people. So really, they shouldn't be rafting there when it comes down to it, but they're going to do it anyway. And so you have to look at what kind of character does that, what kind of person is pulled into that kind of situation. But I like this passage because I think that this passage sums up the whole book for us, this theme that underlies all of the stories. So this is from Selway. My mother says I thrive on chaos, and I guess that's true, because as hard a year as I've had with Jack, I stayed with him, and I won't even admit by how much the bad days outnumbered the good. We fought like bears when we weren't on the river, because he was so used to fighting and I was so used to getting my own way. I said I wanted selfless devotion, and he took a stand on everything from infidelity to salad dressing, and it was always opposite of mine. The one thing we had going for us, though, was the sex. And if we could stop screaming at each other long enough to make love, it would be a day or sometimes 2 before something would happen and we'd go at it again. I've always been afraid to stop and think too hard about what great sex in bad times might mean. But it must have something to do with timing, that moment making love when you're at once absolutely powerful and absolutely helpless, a balance we will never find when we were out of bed. So I like this passage because I think that it demonstrates the depth of her writing, because she is talking about this reflection period of where she's explaining character to us, yes, but she's looking back to do it. So we've got that reflection as well. And then we've also got this clear evaluation of the relationship. And I think that that evaluation of the relationship is consistent in the stories throughout the whole book. So Cowboys Are My Weakness. Strongly recommend it. Everyone I talked to loved the book. For me, like I said, I love the writing. It's just the topic isn't for me. It's not my thing. But I still get the value of the book. The other one I want to share with you is called Deep Creek. This one I love. This one we've got um, her experiences of reflecting back on her life. She experienced extraordinary childhood trauma, extraordinary violence, most especially from her father, who is a terribly violent person. We'll just say that, and I'll let you read it for yourself. Um, and then coming to Colorado, buying a ranch in the mountains, and coming to this place of where she seeks out and finds a form of healing by living on this ranch and interacting with it and having her animals there and so forth. And I think that both as a Coloradan and as a Westerner, these themes of the human connection with nature and the human connection with the environment is something that all of us can really get. She's got a piece in here about a forest fire, and it goes on and on and on for pages and pages. And I've got to say, I was absolutely riveted reading that because that is the experience of forest fire, which we in the West live with every year. And of course, with climate change, it is getting worse. I've experienced it in my own life, and I've observed it absolutely getting worse. We lived under falling ash all summer, so it's very real and very much a part of our lives. The way that she explains it, the way that she describes it, the way that she talks about the immediacy of it, and yet it's that that personal connection with nature, with the environment is really lovely. So I'd like to read you the first page here. This is from Introduction, Some Kind of Calling. When I look out my kitchen window, I see a horseshoe of snow-covered peaks, all of them higher than 12,000 feet above sea level. I see my old barn, old enough to have started to lean a little, and the low-ceilinged homesteader's cabin, which has so much space between the logs now that the mice don't even have to duck to crawl through. I see the big stand of aspen ready to leaf out at the back of the property, ringing the small but reliable wetland, and the pasture greening in earnest, and the bluebirds just returned, flitting from post to post. I see Isaac and Simon, my bonded pair of young donkey jacks, pulling on opposite ends of a tricolor lead rope I got from a gaucho in Patagonia. I see Jordan and Natasha, my Icelandic ewes, nibbling on the grass inside the goose pen, keeping their eyes on Lance and Elsie, this year's lambs. I see two elderly horses, glad for the warm spring day, glad to have made it through another winter of 30 below zero and whiteout blizzards, of 60-mile-per-hour winds, of short days and long frozen nights, and coyotes made fearless by hunger. Decio is 27 and Roni's over 30. And one of the things that means is that I have been here a very long time. I love that cadence of the writing, the way that the sentences flow, the way that she introduces you to all of these little elements of the environment, the horses, the donkeys, the meadow, the wetlands, and so forth. You get all of these little pieces, and that's just one paragraph. I love that flow, that cadence. I love the visuals of how she takes you through it and how it's focused on the environment. It's not focused on her. I love that. I'd like to read you a small passage here out of the piece that I think really kind of captures what she's talking about throughout the book here. This is in the essay, The Season of Hunkering Down. For all of my childhood and throughout my teens, I prayed to have myself sucked tight right back into the ether because I thought it might give my mother back her hopes and dreams of joy. But the universe wouldn't make that trade with me, and so my mother died, drunk and unhappy, and I found my way to this ranch, this place where I protect and am protected by animals, this place where nature controls how I spend my days and how I spend my life, this place where I can love every season. And it continues on. She talks on and on about her process, her long, laborious process of healing, from her experiences of life, particularly her experiences from childhood, and how much work that is, and how it's by being in the environment, being in the ranch in Colorado, and being around her animals and going through the process, going through the steps of caring for the animals and caring for the land and being cared for in return, that she's able to heal. So I strongly recommend Pam Houston. I think that she's an absolutely lovely writer. Beautiful narrative essays, and I would suggest you pick one up if you haven't already.